Hello, Rama Rama Puppodu. Hope all are in good health, feeling great, wonderful, having a happy and relaxed, peaceful life. Now let's go to chapter 46, part B. From Dantuka, he and the party returning to Wadwan directly started for Rajkot. He had only two companions with him during his visit, Bobat Pai and Ram Dasundas. At Rajkot, he met Madhav Ram Raval, a pure and devout soul. This young man had spent the early period of his life in the ashram of a famous saint, Sri Nathuram Sharma, undergoing strict spiritual discipline. He was now in Rajkot in the employ of the state. Ramdas and the friends with him occupied the traveller's bungalow. The devotional temperament of Madhav Ram would reveal itself whenever he sang bhajan and got absorbed in moods of ecstasy. The following day, the party left Rajkot and reached in due time, as planned, Veraval. From Veraval, they travelled by taxi to Una, where Maganlal was living. During this visit, he and the friends resided in a newly built hospital ward near the quarters of Dr. Mahadevia. The friends of the place treated him as on the last occasion with great love and hospitality. A few days after their stay took place a riot between Hindus and Mohammedans, in which many on both sides received severe injuries. The friction between these communities breaking off and on in several parts of India has been creating a perplexing and grievous problem for the leaders of both the communities to tackle with. What is needed on the part of both is a tolerant spirit with regard to each other's beliefs. Both the Muslims and the Hindus have at the back of them equally brilliant traditions, and that they should fight each other exhibits their ignorance or willful forgetfulness of their glorious traditions. After a week's stay, Ramdas and Bobat Pai took leave of the friends and travelled towards Wadwan again. As Dr. Mahadevia desired that Ramdas and Das should continue to remain with him for the treatment of his eye disease, he decided to stay behind. Duly reaching Wadwan, Ramdas in company with Dr. Shukla came to Ahmedabad. On the way to Ahmedabad, they alighted at a wayside station where they went for a darshan of a Jain saint in an ashram which was said to have been occupied at one time by a famous saint known as Mustaram. It appears that the saint originally belonged to the European community. In due course, they reached Ahmedabad, where they stopped at the house of Dr. Sukla's brother. Here, many friends of the place came to see Ramdas, except that he reprimanded in strong terms an educated man holding an academic degree for his gratuitous attack on saints in general. There was nothing of importance to note down. From Ahmedabad, Ramdas travelled towards Sojat Road, where Dr. Raval lived. On his way by train at the Abu Road station, a Gujarati devotee pressed him to break his journey. He spent a blissful night in the company of this friend and other pious members of his household. It has been very often expressed by the householders that it is next to impossible to live a life of utter devotion to God in the midst of the world. This statement was falsified so far as the household of this Gujarati friend was concerned. Every member of the family lived, moved, and had their being in absolute remembrance of God. Calmness and peace ever prevailed in the house. The friend was a pure man, making out his bare subsistence from the income derived from a petty job. Even kings and potentates might envy his contentment. He was so pure, simple, and loving. Life is indeed blessed when it is lived in the spirit in which this young man lived. The following day, Ramdas prosecuted his journey, and the Gujarati friend travelled with him for some stations and then returned. Ramdas reached Sojat Road, where Dr. Raval was eagerly waiting for him. Here he spent a few quiet days, and one evening Raval took him out for a stroll to a distant railway bridge. They sat down on a selected spot. In the course of the talk that ensued, Ramdas expounded upon three main principles that should guide the conduct of a human being: right food first, second, right action, third, right society. Right food consists of such food as is free from the ingredients that cause irritation in the body and the mind. Sattvic diet comes under this topic. What is to be avoided in regard to food is the food that will set the mind in a whirl of desires and cause disease in the body. This comes under the name Rajasic, that is fury, and Tamasic, that is stale food. Right action is that action is in which the idea of self is totally absent. Here, ahimsa or himsa does not apply. Any action performed with the object of attaining a selfish aim should be avoided, be it of nature, himsa or ahimsa. Therefore, selfless action is right action and selfish action is wrong action. Society, that society in which you feel that you are elevated, in which the mind is purified or even drawn inwards and comes by the peace of the eternal, is right society. To be the person with whom you associate of a lower or higher caste or western or eastern nationality. Avoid the company of those people by whose contact your mind is defiled and your senses go out of control, even though they happen to belong to the highest caste or race. Associate with the pure and eschew the company of the impure. This should be held as the standard which is ever true without regard as to any considerations. After a brief stay with Raval, he caught the train for Agra. He of course travelled by the third class. After passing some stations, Raja Ram, that is Thakur Sahib of Limdi, who was also travelling by the same train in his special saloon, came to know that Ramdas was in the train. He approached Ramdas and persuaded him to occupy his place, at least as far as a certain junction where the trains were changed. Raja Ram was on his way to Delhi. There was a small compartment in the saloon car fully equipped, which was used by Mother Elizabeth when she also travelled with Raja Ram. Ramdas settled down in this compartment. Before doing so, he talked for some time with Raja Ram on the greatness of universal vision. The unexpected meeting proved to be highly blissful. At the junction, Ramdas separated from Raja Ram and returned to the third-class carriage. Having been informed of his coming, Ramchandra Gupta was awaiting at the station to receive him. He took Ramdas to the city and got him to occupy a small, newly built dharmashala in the presence of a temple. Here, he met many devotees and friends of the place. Let's continue next chapter. Thank you. Bye bye. Rama Rama Puppodu.